Let's get into some more fan cams. In my opinion, that's embarrassing. And to all the people saying I'm salty, you're fucking too right I am, because we were well better than Chelsea today.
I'm Rubi Deschamps and I'm mostly known for this face and a Liverpool kit. I'm a bit more than that. These reckon they've got it on lock, but they haven't.
It's a complete joke how many fans were leaving on the 80th minute. It was
against Chelsea, he was the one making that big tackle in the first 2 minutes.
And of course, the one and only
3-star DM,
aka
Doyle. Game over. I think that was a great performance from the Liverpool fan.
It's actually a sustainable business model for a football club. You spend the money that you bring in, and that's why we're not in £500 million worth of debt.
Listen, if we win 4-0, we owe Ash a drink, yeah?
If there's one English club talking to Mbappe, then it should be Liverpool. But at the same time, it's not really Liverpool's style to go out and buy the best player in the world. Yes, good morning, Reds. I hope we are well. Still on a hangover, really, from an incredible result last night. Jordan Henderson winning the game for us in the last 20 minutes. Incredible result last night. But today, we're here to talk about the bread and butter. The Premier League is back again at the weekend, and I've got a great guest to join me. To be honest, whenever we play Crystal Palace, there's only one person, maybe apart from the Manor, a couple of them lads, but apart from them, it's man like Joe Walker on every time to talk about Palace. Thank you for coming on the channel again, sir.
Always a pleasure, mate. Well, I say that last time the 7-0 autopsy was. You were relatively polite. It was, it was quite funny because pulling behind the curtain, the way this works, there's a sort of backstage before you get let on. You can see what's happening, and I remember it was Doyle was kind of being like, "Joe, I really need you to get out of here." And then once I left, imagine everyone just kind of like, like you could all finally enjoy that ridiculous scoreline. Yeah, but I appreciated the restraint until I left because it was
man. The fact that you even came on after that, I think we had to respect you, so it's a bit like one of them, when the teacher goes out the room, everyone starts, one of them ones. And the teacher goes out the room, you start celebrating. No, but yes, amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, bro. And big up to Doyle. It's actually his birthday today. I'm going to be with him later. Got him a cheeky little present there, which, you might know about it now that I've done that. But anyway, big up to Doyle on his birthday. Great watch along last night. Big up to you, Ravi. You were watching. You were in the pub watching the game. Big up to you, man. Big man, Alex. He says as well. Big up, Alex. What a win! What a game last night in the Champions League. Absolutely, guys. Before we even get into this match preview for Liverpool versus Crystal Palace, make sure you show some love and like and comment. It really doesn't affect your life that much, but it positively affects ours. So please make sure you can do that for us as we get into this bad boy. A quick shout out to James Redmond. So he will be doing the fan cams on my behalf outside Anfield on Saturday. Are you actually going to the game, Joe?
No, when it comes to away trips, I'm still a bit 50-50. I have to pick and choose at the moment. Yeah. So maybe if it was a bit later on in the season, I might have gone, but not this one. A bit too soon, and it's on telly as well. So an early wake up, I can't be bothered for just yet.
No.
Not with the history of our results as well.
I don't blame you, mate. But yeah, James Redmond will be taking over my job. So if you are watching this and you are going to the game on Saturday, make sure that you go and check James Redmond after on the Kop TV. I'm working away, and then next week as well, I'll be doing the watch-alongs online. Because I'll be abroad. So big up to James for stepping in, and go back and watch his review of the game last night, 3-2 win. When you're watching Liverpool play, Joe, and you know that you're playing them at the weekend, does a result like that last night make you think, actually, these are bang up for it? Or is it just always, a big game when you go to Anfield? Or does a result like that actually impact?
I think in the last few years, barring that weird sort of 6 months, or no, it wasn't even 6 months, was it? It was that period around Christmas and the start of 2021 with your injury issues. There's never been an issue of Liverpool gonna kind of phone a game in. I just don't think that's what Klopp's Liverpool have ever done, really. And that's the impression I've got, is that I think you turn up for every game taking it as seriously as the last one, and you've got generally, barring again a crazy injury crisis, you have got the squad depth to kind of put your best foot forward for every kind of game. So yeah, from a Palace perspective, when we play a big side on the weekend and they've got a European game during the week, It's only really if that game goes into extra time, or I know it's ahead of, the next week there's a big second leg or something. That's the only time I think, whether are they going to. In fact, there's a great example. 2005, the year you won it, you played us before one of the quarters or semi-finals, second legs.
Juventus.
I couldn't tell
Second
which one
leg
for
Juventus.
sure it was.
What month was it? Do you remember which month? And I'll be able to tell you. April?
I couldn't say for sure. It might have been April. And you came to Selhurst and you played we lost 1-0. But you played like Darren Potter on the wing and stuff. So like,
wow, what a name that is.
But that's the only time when a team like us, when we're playing a bigger side, that's the only time I think, we might be able to nick some in here. Whereas this kind of stage of the season, no, I think Liverpool I think the pundits have been relatively quiet about just how back to normal you guys have been, because I don't know, because other clubs have strengthened in recruitment. That's more news than the fact that actually, Liverpool are playing like they are 2 years ago. Do you know?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I actually think that game you're talking about, did Andy Johnson score and you won 1-0?
He did. Yeah, that's right.
And were we wearing a yellow kit?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. That memory never goes, bro. It never leaves me. But no, I think you're right. And it's actually something that Liverpool fans are actually not happy about, but we'll take not being everyone's favourites, because that's just how we've always been. Like, no one expected us to win the Champions League. No one expected us to win the Premier League. Obviously it took us so many years to win the Premier League. When I was a kid and you'd see the papers, who they predicting to win stuff at the start of the season. I remember loads of times in like 07, maybe 08, people like, yeah, this is Liverpool's year. They're going to win it. Favourites for the league. Just got Torres, Gerrard's there. And I just couldn't believe that people were even writing about us to be favourites. Yeah. I'd actually so much prefer it if people focus and shine the light on the Chelseas, the Cities, the United, because it means that we can just slip through the back door. And you're right. I mean, in terms of Premier League form, we've not lost a game in the last 14. And we've actually got 36 points if you take the last 14 games into account. And I think second to that is City with 30 points and 4 losses. So, yeah, Liverpool actually the form team right now, if you look at a kind of longer stretch of games, which, again, like you just said, it's gone under the radar how back to normal things have gone. Let's talk about Palace, though, because like we said, last season, absolute mad one, 7-0. The fact that you even came on to do a preview, but then you also came on to do a review, it was just unbelievable, to be honest, bro. But that won't happen again. I can promise you that. You look like a much different team now. But talk to me about what it's been like so far under Big Pat, because he always beats Tottenham as a player and as a manager, smashed them 3-0 at the weekend. How are you feeling? You got Edouard in, Gallagher's looking really good. Things are looking up at Palace, Joe.
Yeah, I'm a lot more. So I chose to be positive over the summer. I think
you chose.
Yeah, no, because the thing was,
right, it is a choice.
We knew a lot of players were leaving, and my worry wasn't that we wouldn't get players in. It was we wouldn't get many good players in. We didn't seem to have any kind of transfer budget. And then what seemed to emerge over the summer was we had this, I say big, 80 million investment, which for a club of Palace's size, but it does rebuild an entire squad, which is what we did. What also helped was that, weirdly, in a pandemic, because we had that investment now, the timing, not a lot of clubs have actually got the cash reserves at the moment. So It's only, you're seeing these crazy transfers happen at the top end because people have the money, whereas in the mid-table clubs, they're kind of just, all right, let's not go crazy. Whereas we've been able to get seriously good players for decent value because we can play more up front at the moment. But yeah, I assumed it would take a bit more time. Patrick Vieira arrived 5 weeks before the season started. We'd had this long drawn out search because we thought we could get Nuno. That didn't happen last minute. We thought we were going to get Favre. He pulled out last minute. So I thought, and then our opening games are Chelsea away was opening day, Brentford, West Ham away, Tottenham. We've got Liverpool away. Then we've got Brighton. Was our biggest game of the season, and then we've got City, Leicester, Arsenal. So I thought I was ready to go. Right, this is all going to need time. let's talk about where Vieira is in November, December, because changing the style of play and a whole new set of players, asking them to get any kind of points in this stage of the season anyway was, I would expect us to be bottom 3. But for us to get the win against Spurs and the draw at West Ham, for it to already be looking, we're seeing a difference on the pitch already is quite like, yeah, I'm on cloud 9, because the way Palace fans are, to be honest with you, Alex, is that if we're going to finish 4th, like I don't mind finishing 14th, but let's finish 14th trying to win games, then finish 14th the way it was at the back end of the Hodgson spell, where it was just like, what? I'm a bit of a pinball at the moment, but have you seen how Andros Townsend's playing?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. And he's openly been saying, and so is Zaha, like, we were being trained to be defenders, so we weren't up that end of the pitch. And so when you suddenly go somewhere else, and we were happy to let him go, and now he's playing to his strengths, and suddenly, like, these are still good players. I think he had no kind of. You think a manager, as you get older, would be a bit more like, let's play a bit more. What's the worst that can happen? And he just seemed to retreat the longer it went on, and the fact that we weren't bringing any good players in. But now it's just like a totally different proposition to what it was 12 months ago when you last come to
I'm not going to lie to you. I watched the Spurs game, and yes, it was close up until 70 minutes, and then you kind of pulled away. But in the end, it was emphatic. And obviously, you just beaten a Tottenham team who, let's not forget, they've had a great start to the season. If you take that away, maybe normal service has resumed a bit for Tottenham now after that defeat. But let's talk about Edouard, because apart from Liverpool, I love Celtic, and I have been watching a lot of Celtic down the years, and Edouard's been pocketing goals up there for fun. And when he actually moved to Palace, I wasn't there going, I wish we'd bought him, but it was more of, wow, that's a big signing for Palace, because with all due respect, where Celtic are, I mean, however anyone wants to look at it, I would personally say at Celtic, bigger club than Crystal Palace. And I'm not saying he's gone down. He's definitely gone up because he's gone into the Premier League now, which is a better league than the Scottish League. But that's a big coup. And I think I saw you tweet, actually, something along the lines of, he scored now. He scored 2 on his debut. So Benteke can slightly just slide out the back door now. Talk to me about what a signing that's been.
Yeah.
What a debut.
Oh, absolutely. I think where we did really well, and he wasn't the only player this summer that we did it with Palace, is that we kind of were willing to pay the money for players who were in their last year of contract. I think so. Elise at Reading was another one where a lot of clubs were looking at him, including some top 4 sides, but they were willing to wait until January or just to know they could convince him with a bigger signing on fee. Whereas we went in the summer, let's pay 8 million. What's 8 million for this player, really? Forget the contract. And that's how it's been with Edouard. I think we just kind of looked around and went, hey, we can get this guy for 14, 15 million. And the other players you can get for that money are Eddie Nketiah. Like, no disrespect to him, but that's a player that's scored like maybe 10 senior goals in his career, and Edouard's got 80 odd and some of them in the Champions League or the Europa League. And you just think the only concern I had was, a lot of Celtic fans said he kind of once it was clear he wasn't going to sign a new deal and was looking elsewhere, he sort of phoned it in for the last year, 18 months. And, some players, they think they can turn it back on like a switch, and they can't. I've seen it before. So that was the only kind of concern I had with, was he going to hit at this level, is he going to be like, oh no, we're not dominating games. How am I going to be? But yeah, dream start. So that removed that conversation straight away. It's a different, I liken it to, Palace have never replaced Glenn Murray. Which sounds silly, but when we got promoted, we had Zaha and Balazi on each side, and neither of them would really cross. They would cut back in and lay it off. And despite everything, Benteke's never really had that relationship where, like, he's always go for the looping cross and head it in, which he's amazing at. But we've never really had wingers. Even Townsend never used to do that for him. So having Edouard, you immediately saw as soon as he came on, he darted into the box, and then just that little hesitation. So he's bought himself a yard, took a touch, finish. And it wasn't like, I've got to get a perfect in the corner. It was like, just hit it anywhere in that direction. And, you don't win a lottery if you don't buy the ticket. And we've not bought many tickets in the last 2-3 years. So I think he's going to be great. The bar is very low for us. Like 10 goals, he's like perfect. He's already like worth the money. Anything more than that, then we are, you know, we can really look about going a bit higher up the table.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with you. I think he scored after a minute of coming on, and then obviously scores again.
Yeah.
Conor Gallagher as well. I mean, I'm far from a Chelsea fan, as everyone knows, but I think the rise of him, maybe not so much last year at West Brom, but I think this year he's in London. He's got good players around him, and he's got the freedom now under Patrick Vieira to actually go and do what he does. And he's actually someone I'm quite worried about, just because of his kind of runs in between the lines. I think there was a couple of times last night where between Gomez and Matip, there was a few runs in between from Rebic and Brahim Diaz, who played well, actually, both of them last night. And it scared me a little bit. And I mean, if we're going with what Jamie says here, morning to you, mate, he says Konate and Van Dijk to start against Palace. That would be interesting because, again, Konate has not played any minutes of Premier League football. And, you know, I watched him maybe play 10 minutes against Osasuna in the pre-seasons. But if we were to go with a partnership that isn't Van Dijk and Matip, which has served us so well in this Premier League so far, I'm not saying I'd be more nervous, but if we are going to start mixing it up, especially against the Palace team, which, let's not forget, very informed striker. You've got Zaha, which is always an issue, no matter what time you play Palace. And then you've got Gallagher behind him. I would personally stick to Matip and Van Dijk. What would the best solution for you be in terms of a Liverpool lineup? Who would you like to start as a Palace fan?
I think the more I'm familiar at the back line, the better.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I despite everything, I would expect Benteke to start again. I think what really helped in the Tottenham game, obviously they're quite a depleted back four, and then Dyer went off, and then there was a second red card. But Benteke was just kind of pulling them all there everywhere physically, and then it just allowed that last 15 minutes. They were absolutely spent by the time Edouard had come on. So just those little drops of the shoulder and stuff, and he was buying himself so much space. So I would imagine a similar sort of setup where Benteke kind of goes toe-to-toe with Konate on a kind of physical one. Obviously, Konate is not a weakling by any stretch, but I think they'll kind of go for that intense battle between the centre backs and him, and try and get, as you say, Gallagher, Zaha in behind. For me, the interesting battle, and it's the bit that hasn't really been spoken about with this new Palace side. Our two new centre backs are very interesting. Like I don't know the level. We got Mark Gay, who we paid 20 million off Liverpool, Chelsea, and Joachim Andersen, who we paid 15 million, I think, from Lyon. He was the guy that
proper dough this summer, haven't you?
Dough. So
more than us.
Yeah, Anderson was the guy who. Do you remember Fulham? Sorry, last year couldn't buy a point. They got him in, and they immediately conceded way fewer goals. He was made captain, even though he's on loan. So we've got him in because they've obviously got relegated, couldn't afford him. But they are too much more. You know what it's like to have played us in the last few years. Tompkins, Gary Cahill, very deep, very, very deep. And it's just kind of like, right, just clear it out, really low, deep banks of four, and hope that the wingers do an explosive counter-attack. I think with as we've been playing this season, we're playing on a halfway line with these two younger, they're both like 20, one's 22, one's 24. Like, it's super young centre-backs, but they're both really confident passers. The Anderson's been doing these diagonals, and it means recovery pace, which might be. I'm interested how it's tested against Liverpool, because against Spurs, Kane was a bit isolated. It was the first time in his Spurs career he'd never got a touch in the other box in 90 minutes. And partly it was because of them, because they could play a lot higher and their recovery pace was crazy. But also they could just really calmly start attacks, which is something, that changes our style of play kind of overnight. And I'm interested to see how they go up against a much better forward line, a fully fit Liverpool forward line. Mane, Salah, whether it's Jota or Firmino, that's a much different proposition to, despite a good result last week it was only really Kane who up front. I mean, Moura played well, actually, but there was no Son, for example.
Yeah,
and that
big
changed
miss
how we could approach that game. So I think that's the bigger battle that you're going to see on the weekend, is how those centre backs go up against trying to play high against you lot. That might be a bit much different proposition. And then the midfield is, you've played against us, deep line, all kind of the similar sort of mould of midfielder. Now we've put Gallagher in for taking out a couple of those, and
Gallagher for me a much better option than McCartney, or McCarthy. I mean, I know you had both of them in the midfield there.
McCarthy's gone to Celtic now,
exactly.
McCarthy's actually surprisingly really adapted well. It's Kouyaté is the one at the moment who's winning the tackles and then sort of hitting it out of play straight away for a pass. So some of those players aren't going to adapt, and that, as you say, we're trying to replace a lot of them. It's an ongoing thing.
I feel like I feel like Palace have actually, with what you were saying about the centre backs, with the wingers, a new striker, it's almost like you've said goodbye to the 20th century of football, but you've almost stepped into a new era under Pat, and it's future led. I mean, everything about you now is a higher line, more pace, more width, more control in the middle, younger. So actually, I do think this will be a harder performance for Liverpool than a lot of people. I don't think anyone's thinking this will be an easy game, however. But I do think it would be a lot harder than maybe people think. Let's get into some comments here. Ravi says, if we can keep Zaha quiet, that will help us control the game. It's always a good battle, isn't it? Zaha and Trent on that side. There's someone else here who has said it. Rahul says Zaha can really hurt Liverpool when he's on Trent's side with the cold emoji. Mitchell then says double up on Zaha and Palace won't create. So
my opinion on that is that has been the case for any side playing us for the last 2-3 years. However, this season, which is something we've been crying out for, is that Zaha's best form for Palace has always come when there's another winger who offers any kind of threat, or for other players that are going to be a nuisance. Now we have those with Gallagher, Michael Elise, and Eze, who unfortunately I think he's out till like Christmas. But those kind of players have opened it up for him, and that's why he got his most amount of goals last season when Eze came in. And this season, I think he's going to be. You can't do the 2-3 players. The thing I will kind of concede, because I'm not. It has been really positive, but this comment by Mitchell, who says, "I smell a real jubbing for Palace." I'm not naive enough to think that us playing a little bit more higher up the pitch. What's the word? We're trying to win the ball higher up the pitch as well. That's a big part of our game.
Which is going to leave you open.
Absolutely, that's all. Exactly, it's all well and good doing that against Brentford, against West Ham, a depleted Tottenham side. Let's see how that works against a team that is more than happy. I think Liverpool. I think Jurgen Klopp is delighted that Palace are not going to do 2 banks of 4.
Yeah,
like do you know what I mean? Like that
plays into our hands, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So how we play, maybe Vieira decides to do it totally different, but it's. I have no idea now how these kind of games are going to go. Where before I'd kind of you kind of knew how the setup would be. If you're going to go toe to toe, that would be crazy, but if it's the way we think we're going to have to play every week, then who knows? I just know that it's a more exciting way to lose now. That's all I'm saying.
Well, listen, it's exciting, full stop. And I feel like if you go 1 up but you lose 4-1, you'd actually go, well, actually, we've actually really gone for this, and you have to commend that, rather than, like you said, under Hodgson, he's turning wingers into defenders, which is what you definitely don't want to see if you're a Palace fan. But come to Anfield, play your game, see how it works out. But then I guarantee if you play, let's say, for instance, we win 4-2 at the weekend. Let's say you get a couple of goals and it's a good performance from Palace. That way that you play, that earns you 2 goals at Anfield, is going to win you a lot of games through the season. And if you can keep, your key players injury free, if you can get Eze back into it, I'm really kind of positive for you, actually, that Palace could actually get a top 10 finish this season. And I think if you just keep playing the way you are, you're going to have more big nights than losses, really. This whole let's double up on Zaha, I mean, if we look at that side that he's going to be playing on, Trent will be there. And then I imagine someone like Henderson or maybe Thiago would be on that kind of central left side that would actually cover Robbo and Trent wherever's needed. But this whole doubling up, I mean, it's a bit old school now, isn't it? Doubling up. I don't know if that's a thing anymore, is it? I mean, in Sunday League, you'd stick 2 on the big man up top, but realistically, I don't think Klopp's there going, right, 2 of you walking around following Zaha.
I mean, yeah, the kind of modern equivalent of that is you have a winger that is willing to the winger on that side has been instructed. You're going to need to help out Trent a little bit. Like that. Don't just completely kind of wait for something to happen at the other end of the pitch. Yeah. You're going to need to kind of work together. But that doesn't mean it's not man marking. It does. You say 20th century football, whatever. When we're in the championship and Zaha got called up for England, the moment that happened, we played a game against Bolton, and I shit you not, there were 3 men on him, and it was funny because all it meant was Yannick Bolasie at the time of his life in the second half of the season. So it's only
Bolton in the championship. That does sound like 20th century football, to be honest with you.
But that's just. But he does have until very recently, a lot of clubs would just kind of go nullify Zaha, and there's nothing else to worry about on the pitch. And honestly, that was the case because the opposite winger for most of the last couple of years has been Townsend, who is playing well at Everton, but he just couldn't get up and down the pitch in the way that Hodgson demanded him to. The guy's had like multiple Achilles injuries. Like, it's just not. He's better as someone that stays forward and gets end product done. If you ask him to win the ball at the edge of his own box and then run 80, do that 5 times a game, it's unsustainable for a player like him. So we used to be really easy to nullify, and that's why if you look, people talk about Zaha's stats, goal scoring wise, has been really low for like 5 years. It's not because he's a bad player; it's because he's asked to win the ball at the edge of his own area, take it to the halfway line. He'll get brought down there. And that's the best you can get. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now, it's different. It is different.
Speaking about Townsend, I think his outstanding memory of his time at Palace, obviously that screamer at Man City, which actually almost won Liverpool the league that season. If you actually go back and work out all the numbers, it could have won Liverpool the league. And then obviously his hair transplant. So if you ever want a hair transplant to anyone, go to where Andros Townsend got his. Because that man, I mean, I've got a Kiwi here. Very short, stubbly hairs on there. All of a sudden, he's out here with the maddest of trims. And it's almost like, how on earth has gravity allowed that? But but unbelievable. Big shout out here to the Kop TV. Sorry, the Kop 1994 who's trying to bait me. Can you give my friend a birthday shout out? Her name is Testicles. Very good from you, yeah, almost. Well, I mean, I read it out, but I told you I was onto it before I read it out, so you didn't quite get me there. Vinod says, we need Mane at his best if he wants to win the Premier League. I mean, let's talk about Mane because he did have a good game at Crystal Palace last year. I remember he scored a couple on the day. I mean, everyone had a good game, to be honest, in that game.
Yeah,
but
I think he's
Mane for me. What do you think it is with him this season?
I don't know. I think with wingers and creative players, there's sometimes, part of the game.
99 goals for Liverpool, though, Joe.
Yeah, I knew that. That's the thing. So I think Palace might be the team he scored the most against as a Liverpool player. I think he scored easily 9-10 goals. So the 100, it was when I saw that stat flag up the other day, I went, okay, yeah, he's getting his 100 on Saturday. Yeah. Hey, players like that, every player is a confidence player, but just by the nature of how those kind of wide forward, someone like that that's trying to make stuff happen, there are going to be games where it just doesn't click, and they'll lose the ball and they'll make a mistake, and it just takes 1 more, 2 more happening than you're usually used to, and people go like, "Oh my gosh, their head's nowhere." And in a game, momentum can build up, and you can get inside your own head as a player. I think the mental side of football is way more kind of a factor in how things go than we think. You see it, don't you? You see good players fall off the cliff in form.
Torres.
And absolutely. And it's not a physical thing. So I think with Mane, he'll be back. He'll be fine. He'll be absolutely fine. And it'll probably be a goal on the weekend that you go, oh yeah, it's Mane. It's not a spent force. You know what I mean?
No, not yet. big comment here from Marshall. We're going to smash Crystal Palace at Anfield. Me personally, I'm not the same. I wouldn't agree with that. I'd like us to win, obviously, but Nicki Minaj. Oh my god.
Speaking of testicles,
Yeah, exactly. You still ducking me, AGT. I don't know if you saw, but Nicki Minaj went on a Twitter tirade where she said, "What's AGT?" because she was arguing with Piers Morgan about America's Got Talent. Yeah. So big up, big up to Nicki Minaj for watching a Liverpool versus Crystal Palace match preview at 11:30 on a Thursday morning. She's probably got more important things to do, but obviously not.
No, well, I've met her before. Do you ever know about that?
You know, go on, tell me.
When I was working with Apple Music, she did a radio show in London, and she did it live.
Reviewing her, that's it.
Yeah, and because I had to operate the desk while she was doing all the mic stuff. And yeah, it was one of the most chaotic days of my life. I know it's a bit off tangent, so I won't go too deep on it in here. But yeah. She is every bit the kind of person you imagine her to be, just from her kind of public-facing energy and persona. Lot of just kind of unhinged, unchecked ego, and I hesitate to say diva because that's just a bit of a cliche, but yeah, no one around her and her manager, a huge entourage, none of whom are willing to kind of go, no, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that. It was just kind of, they all bow to her whim. It was very, very odd. Couldn't imagine living like that.
No, listen, she obviously thinks she knows it all about the jab. Obviously, do your research before you go and grab that. She claimed that anyway, let's not all get into that. That's ridiculous. Let's go for a lineup prediction for Liverpool then. I'm going to go with Alisson in goal. Trent, who claims to have got the goal last night, but it did go down as an own goal. For me, it has to be Van Dijk and Matip, and I do feel a bit for Konate and Gomez in the fact that they are not going to play for Liverpool in the Premier League this season until Matip makes a mistake. That's how high the level has been set this year. I think Matip has lost one game in his last 47 appearances for Liverpool in the league. So there's just no reason to drop him. Yes, we spent 35 mil on Konate, but listen, if no one's making any mistakes, then you're not going in there, son. So with Robertson, I think that's our strongest back five at the minute. Obviously it got hinged a few times last night, but yeah, Liverpool fans would be happy with that. And then in the middle, to start the game, I'm going to go for, and this would be the first time, Joe, this has ever happened for Liverpool, that Fabinho, Henderson and Thiago start a game. Now, when we signed Thiago last season, I was going, our best midfield, Hendo, Thiago, Fabinho. And this was when we had Ginny still. Ginny's left, and it's taken this long through injuries, suspensions, all this stuff for them to actually start a game. And I think when we see them like Thiago, for me, bro, you're a football purist. I know exactly what kind of football player you like. And you would be the type of person, you can appreciate how good that fella is. I mean, we're yet to see it. We've seen glimpses. Brilliant against Leeds, by the way, Thiago. Yeah. But what a player. What a player, man.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you can remember, you guys don't need to kind of remind yourselves of how excited you were when that signing came through. And it's kind of people who aren't fans of Liverpool, you've seen it on the timeline. They're kind of enjoying the fact that there's been a slight delayed gratification from it because it's like, it's just like the signing everybody wanted to make. And it is a credit to not just Klopp, but like Harvey Elliott, for example, essentially, bless him, but had essentially kept his place.
Yeah.
So it's weird that it's finally happened now, and it really it took an injury to Harvey Elliott. And I don't think that's a damnation of Thiago. I just think that's Klopp kind of back in form players, and someone that might have trained really well. And it's a real shame what happened to him. You guys don't need to cover that again. But yeah, if that's the first time they played together, I did not know that. I assumed it must have happened by now. But that's a midfield you back against anybody in the world, isn't it? So
yeah, I mean, in terms of a three in the middle, that's up there in the top 3 or 4 in the world. And then up front, Bobby Firmino. Randomly enough, we still haven't heard how long he's going to be out for. He obviously got that hamstring injury against Chelsea at the end of August. So we're looking at a 3-week turnaround, which is probably about right for a hamstring injury. Maybe add on another week to make it 4 weeks. But because of that, Jota will start again, and then Mane and Salah will start as well. And then off the bench, I mean, last night, it was beautiful actually to see Curtis Jones come on and play really well. Great to see Origi start a game. Got a standing ovation when he came off. So actually, the one thing Liverpool fans have been criticised off is the lack of depth. We haven't bought anyone in the summer of a midfielder or a striker position. But actually, the names we were bringing on last night from the bench were brilliant. And I really do feel like if we can nail down our starting 11, which I think is what I've just said there, and just try and keep that for 5 or 6 games in a row, you're really now going to start to see Liverpool fans or Liverpool spoken about as title contenders. Because right now, we're quite happy to just do our business in the background. But yeah, big one at the weekend. Gary's going for 3-0. What do you reckon the score's going to be, Joe? Be honest, mate.
I think it's going to be a 2 or 3-1 to Liverpool. I think I back Palace to get a goal, but I also think we're a bit, I'm still as impressed as I have been with our defending. This is a different type of game, and we did play Chelsea on the opening day, but I think one new signing played, and bear in mind a lot of our players have been released. It was actually a worse team than the ones Hodgson put out, so it was kind of just this weird. It almost was a friendly. So this is the first actual test because Tottenham again. They played. Nuno was quite defensive, really, and they had a few defenders missing. So this is actually the first test of okay, how do you lot play against a much better side who are at their best or close to it, rather than a hesitant, decent side, even though Tottenham were top. So I think this is going to be a real test at the other end of the pitch, But again, recent results against you guys. I think. Do you remember I think the first time I came on here, I spoke about we used to get loads of results off you. We had that good 2-3 season spell where we beat you at Anfield all the time, and it's just stopped.
What was the score at Anfield last year, though, between us? I'm trying to think, man.
I actually can't remember now because of how the calendar went. I'm mixing up the one you beat us the week before you won you actually got the league. I think the early lockdown you beat us like 4-0.
Yeah.
Last season was I think it was another. It might have been 4-0 again, and it just.
Well, it's saying here June the 24th of June last year. It was 4-0.
Right.
But that was the game we were speaking about.
Yeah,
there, I think
Fabinho from like a million miles out. Yeah.
Yeah, great finish that. Let me see what the actual score was like. It's just completely slipped my mind. It was 2-0. Mane with 2.
Okay.
I mean Mane, because he scored a hat-trick against you, I think, the season before that at Anfield. Gets 2 there. He's definitely scored in the grey kit at Selhurst Park that we had in 18-19. And yeah, you're right. I mean, he loves a goal against Palace.
I genuinely think, because I seem to remember the TV flagging it up before that. I think he scored we're the club top of his kind of goals who he scored against. So yeah,
it's a bit like Gerrard scoring against Newcastle. He loved a goal against Newcastle for Liverpool. Always remember that. But yeah, some players have these teams.
Who's the one for Liverpool? Who's the one that scores against Liverpool? Who's the one that always seems to score against you? Is there
Benteke, bro?
Well,
it's Benteke's. Did you know that as well? Is that a piss take?
No. That was a genuine question. I didn't know.
Well, there's a few actually. Mainly, it's players who have played for us. They always score against us when they leave. But I mean, Benteke with his knee kind of hand celebration at the Anfield Road end. I think you won 2 or 3 years in a row. He's another one. Listen, it was never Benteke's fault that it didn't work out at Liverpool, and you could have seen when Klopp came in and was inherited with Benteke. It was almost as if Klopp went, "Listen, bro, I'm going to give you 10 games, and then as soon as I can, you're gone." And I remember we played you in 15-16 at Selhurst, and we got a penalty in the last minute, and Benteke took it and scored for Liverpool. And that was almost like, I think maybe 2 months later, he went to Palace. But it's normally Benteke, who scores against us.
Yeah, I do expect him to start ahead of Edouard, and just I think we know we're in a battle. We're not so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. We've played, back end of Hodgson, despite everything, they were playing to his strengths a little bit more last season, and what do you do? What a shock! He starts scoring again. That was the big frustrating thing. I think from the outside, people just wrote Benteke off, and he's lost a lot of his pace that he had. But if you get the ball within a sort of square sort of meter of him, he's winning that ball. It's just before there were no flick on.
If you hang a ball up to the back stick, or even maybe the penalty spot to the back stick, and you've got him running in the box, there's not really many people in the Premier League who I'd put above him. Maybe I put 5 people above him, but that's not too bad considering. So yeah, very wary of Benteke. I'm sure there's more Liverpool ex-players. Is Martin Kelly still there at Palace?
He's still there. Bless him. He's now been at Palace. Klein. Now, see, this is the weird one. So we've signed Klein we've got him another year deal, I think. And really, he's only there because we signed a right back about 18 months ago from West Brom, Nathan Ferguson, and he's been injured the whole time. So he's meant to be the kind of long-term solution. So we keep rolling 6 months on a Nathaniel Klein contract unless he wants to find something else. But he's not starting. So I love him, but Joel Ward's been starting and has actually been playing surprisingly okay in the new kind of Patrick Vieira system. But Mane against Ward, those are the games where you go, yeah, we do need upgrading in that position. But Martin Kelly, bless him, he's like 8 years deep at Palace now.
Wow.
And has never been a starter in that period, really. And it's been quite happy to be this kind of 4th choice centre back, 2nd, 3rd choice right back. But I do wonder, I do sometimes just want to put my arm around him and go, like, you could captain a championship side. Like, he's a good defender.
Yeah.
Like, go get games, but he seems quite happy to be at Palace. And, that's fine. Quality depth is hard to find if they're in terms of not getting minutes. So, but yeah, they're the only ex-Palace, I believe, now, ex-Liverpool, I believe, now at Palace. You've got
2 right backs, yeah.
And because Sakho's gone.
Sakho back to France, isn't he now?
He's at
It's
Montpellier.
a shame that, man, because that season where we almost won the league, he was an absolute man mountain. And
he was for us.
After that Dortmund game where
the last minute winner
in the last minute, and Sakho was there going, "This is for the Liverpool country," and then went on pre-season, turned up late, and Klopp was like, "Get out, mate." Do you remember that one? He turned up late to a pre-season, then started doing a vlog and was like, "Oh, look, here's Klopp," and he was like, "Mate, what are you doing? Like, you think that's cool to turn like get out, go home," and just got frozen out. So
yeah.
Listen,
and he had that weird drug test issue as well.
Yeah, a little
which
bit
kind
freaky,
of
that one.
Yeah, so that didn't help his cause. But he was amazing for about 12 months at Palace, but injuries. He's genuinely in the top 5, top 3 defenders we've ever had. And when he was on form, transformed our side. We played completely differently when he was in. There was a run, him and Tompkins, whenever they played together, we didn't lose. And I think we went like 30, 40 games without losing with them two as a pairing. But they never played together. Like, that was spread over like 3 years. And he would, for a club of our size, you can't have a player on 100k a week plus that plays 4 to 5 times a year. And it was that by the end. It really was. So
20 grand a game, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So we just had to write it off.
Yeah.
And it's a sad case, but at this point, I just hope we've moved on, and I hope he kind of still has a career in France.
And that's it. That's what we like to see. Listen, Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I'm going to go with 3-1. Similar to yourself, I'm going to go with 3-1 to Liverpool. The first time in years that I'm actually not going to be watching this game live, and I can't believe that's going to happen. But anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing the result anyway. Like I said, guys, go and follow Joe Walker. Big on Twitter, big in the music game, big in the Palace world as well, and the football content world. Big fan of your work, bro. And
Thanks,
listen, next time we're at the Selhurst Park, I would love to come down and maybe interview you in person as well, bro.
Yeah, sure. I'll be there for the return leg. Don't you worry about that. So yeah, always a pleasure coming on. Appreciate you shouting me, and always a pleasure.
No
man.
worries at all, my brother. Listen, take care, Joe. All the best, and we'll see you soon.
Nice one.
Have a good day, man. Right, there you have it, Joe Walker with your Palace perspective. He reckons it's going to be 2-3-1 to Liverpool. I'm going with the same. However, I am expecting a tough game against Palace. It always is. They've always got the type of players that can hurt you, especially with Zaha and this new fella Edouard, and I like the look of Gallagher as well. Don't forget, James Redmond will be outside the Park pub in particular, doing the fan cams for the Kop TV for the first time. Just him on his own with you guys as well. So really looking forward to seeing how he gets on. Remember, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to get to 10K before Christmas. Help us if you can do that. It would be very appreciated indeed. Right, it's Doyle's birthday, so I'm going to have to go and see him, aren't I? Take care.
Whoa. Just before you go,
don't forget, give us a like, drop us a comment, and subscribe to the Kop TV.
the voice of football's most famous stand.